Hello and welcome to Premodern PARALLAX Replenish. Before we get into the video, if you do like these, please do like, comment and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and I really appreciate your support. So thank you for that. Now, a lot of people think that you need Replenish to win with this deck, which is actually not the case at all. You do obviously want Replenish in the deck, but it mostly just speeds up the combo or gives us enormous value. The actual combo requires these three cards. And what they do is they exile all of our opponent's lands, creatures, and global enchantments permanently, forever. The way this works is essentially we're responding to the exile effects from these PARALLAX cards by removing them from play, meaning the leaves play will happen before the exile and their stuff will be exiled forever. As Opalescence makes PARALLAX Wave a creature, it means it can exile itself. So when it exiles itself, it sees that it's exiled itself and returns itself, essentially resetting the counters and giving it infinite counters. We can use this to exile all of their creatures forever by responding to the exile effect. So we'll target their creature to exile it, but then before that happens, before it resolves, we will remove another counter to target our wave and exile the wave. So what will happen here is the wave will exile itself and it will see that it's exiled, so it will return everything that it's exiled, which at this point is only our wave. It will come back, resetting the counters and counting as a completely new wave. Then we will allow the previous exile that targets their creature to resolve. That will exile their creature forever permanently, as the return effect has already happened, that won't come back. This wave counts as a new wave. If it leaves play, it will not return that creature. So that's how we exile all of our opponent's creatures permanently forever. And this works in the same way with their lands and PARALLAX Tide. It's just a little bit of a longer way of doing it. So we use the Tide to target a bunch of their lands. And because it's now a creature, because of Opalescence, it means we can respond. So before those lands are exiled, we can remove the Tide with the wave. Again, this will put the return ability on the stack, meaning, there's nothing to return, their lands haven't been exiled yet, so nothing happens. Then we allow the exile effect to resolve, exiling their lands forever permanently. Now we can remove another counter with our wave to exile itself. It will see that it's exiled the Tide because of course we allowed that part to resolve, and it will return them both to play with full counters. So again, this is a way to sort of give them a pseudo infinite counters, meaning this combo will stick around forever, and that's usually why it's game over on the spot. So Opalescence also turns global enchantments into creatures, and that's why we can exile all of those. Of course, we can do this combo as a one-time thing with things like Seal of Cleansing or a way to bounce one of these PARALLAX cards, but it sticks around forever if we use Opalescence. We can also use this to generate infinite mana if we target our own lands, and then instead of exiling the Tide before it resolves, we allow that to resolve, so the lands will be exiled under the Tide, and then we exile the Tide, the lands will come back untapped, meaning we can tap them for mana. So it's kind of like a kind of long process of doing it, but we can just repeat this process, tapping our lands for mana every time and generating infinite mana. It doesn't often come up that we need that, usually they concede on the spot to this combo, but occasionally it is useful. So in this deck, Seal of Cleansing is very useful because not only does it combo with the PARALLAX cards, it's also very good against a lot of just decks in general. Replenish obviously speeds up this combo, it's super fast, and also we can just use it for max value to return a bunch of useful cards. The rest of the deck is almost entirely ways to find the cards that we need, and you can see a lot of these cards do put things into the graveyard as well, which makes them feel a lot more powerful than they are because of Replenish. Traditionally, a lot of these lists played Squee Goblin in the Bob because it's very good with those draw discard cards as you can keep returning it, but most of the time I find that I don't actually want to discard it because I have powerful enchantments that I want to discard for Replenish. Squee can also be used to make a lock with Solitary Confinement, but in today's metagame it's just nowhere near as powerful as it used to be, and many lists do have main deck ways to get out of this or to stop it. So a lot of these decks are actually moving away from this Squee Goblin the Bob Solitary Confinement lock, and they're moving towards other kinds of tutors such as Enlightened Tutor, Counter Magic, or perhaps Seal of Removal to get rid of some of those annoying creatures. The deck is also full of soul lands. We're playing 6 in total. These can really help to speed up our combo and what we're doing, and they work amazingly well with the cards like Frantic Search that untap lands. Apart from that, we're just playing the standard blue-white lands you would expect. Really nothing special here. For the sideboard, we have stuff for against control, such as Orin's Chant, Defense Grid, Mana Short, stuff for against creatures like Swords to Plowshares, extra copies of Seal of Cleansing, and something which I've never actually seen anyone else play, so maybe this might just be my own tech, but I really think you have to play Exalted Angel in the sideboard. It's so strong in this deck because generally they side out a lot of their removal, and then you can bring it in, and with the soul lands it's just super strong. Also, if they see it, say you're playing game 3 and they saw it in game 2, they'll bring some of that removal back in maybe, and then those are dead cards against most of your deck. So I really just can't say enough how amazing Exalted Angel is in this sideboard. As far as options go, there's a lot of good enchantments that we could play, such as Energy Field instead of Solitary Confinement. There's also a lot of ways to draw cards or put them in the graveyard, such as Fact or Fiction. And there is a different version of this list that plays Pandemonium that can shoot the opponent and just kill them on the spot. In terms of starting hands, obviously we're looking to combo as quickly as we can, but generally this deck has so much card draw that really a lot of the hands are keepable. When playing it, in some matchups you'll want to just try and draw and discard as much of your deck as quickly as possible, and then hit the replenish and just bring all that stuff back and win on the spot. In other matchups we'll be looking to actually just play out our enchantments and annoy our opponent with them until we just naturally draw the combo and win from there. These are some of the most commonly seen cards used to fight against the deck, and while of course they do something, they're nowhere near as strong as people think they are. That's because once our combo's actually in play, we can still remove all of their stuff at instant speed, meaning a naturalize effect won't stop us exiling all their stuff. Tormod's Crypt, while it does remove the graveyard aspect, again as I mentioned before, these combo pieces only cost 4 mana, so it's quite easy for us to just cast them. And discard effects, while they're good against the card Replenish, it's really not that good against our enchantments because, you know, we can always top deck another thing or top deck a Replenish and just get everything back. However, I do find these cards are incredibly powerful against the deck. Meddling Mage, especially in multiples, can be extremely difficult to beat. Stasis is just an absolute horrible matchup with all their counter magic and the card Stasis specifically. And Haunting Echoes, it removes the graveyard, but it also removes all those combo pieces from our deck. So these cards are all very strong. And I also find that sometimes a well-timed Wasteland or piece of counter magic can really also set the deck back quite a bit. And so we're definitely a combo deck through and through. In many matchups we're just trying to combo as quickly as possible. It's only really against control decks where we're just trying to throw as many of those enchantments at them as we can until eventually something just gets through. The strengths of the deck, it's super powerful and it resists hate quite well. It has many options and no dead cards, unlike our opponents who will have dead creature removal or other cards that just don't affect our deck because it attacks at a different angle. The weaknesses would be the mana base, specifically Stasis and counter magic, and sometimes faster combos can beat us. Also, the deck is very expensive money-wise, which is a significant downside. So here's my actual list that I used to top 8 several monthlies, and as I mentioned, I will be moving away from the Squee Solitary Confinement lock. But as always, I do recommend you do check out TC decks. There's lots of lists on there. And otherwise, thank you for watching and see you next time.